discussed at the starting of this discussion of this course, that is, this is basically based on the optimum receiver. This is simply, you can say, it is based on optimum receiver. And all these syllabus like Model 1, Model 2, Model 3, up to Model 5, myself and Janardhan Sahasra have actually made the syllabus of this digital communication system. So we have tried to keep the contents from one single book so that the students can get it easily just by following one or two. So you will find all the contents of the module 2. You will find communication system, fourth edition, seven editions. Even though it is of editions, then also you'll be able to get John Williamson's Tele. So we'll be teaching from this book only. So if you want to have some more understanding, suppose some things you might have maybe missed during the discussions, you may follow this book, communication system by Simon Higgins. All the things will be given in this book. So mass filter. So as I told you that this module 2 is related to the optimum receiver. So actually optimum receivers, like suppose we do the modulation, and after modulations we transmit the signals, and at the receiving end we again do the demodulation. In the demodulations, we try to actually extract our original message signals from the modulated signals. We get our original message signal. Now, in the case of digital communication system, how can we detect this message signal empty if some there is effect of the noise during the communications? So, the receiver, which is able to detect that symbol, which is of the form of 10 signal, which is able to detect that with the minimum value of the probability of error. And we can say that with the maximum value of the signals to noise ratio at the receiving end, that type of receiver is called as optimum receiver. And and most time you will be while studying in module 3, you will realize that we are using these optimum receivers like we are using an integrator at the receivers, and we are making the using the decision making device. So that you will see that this and we will see
Not
that what happens. What happens
very. Your voice is not clear.
now? Ankit, is it clear now?
Yes, sir. Now it is clear.
So, so as I told you that let me speak a little bit louder so that you can able to get other things. So optimal receiver is that receiver which is actually able to detect that received signal at the 1010 digital bit at the receiving end with the minimum probability of error. It means that either we call it as minimum probability of error, or we call it as signals with the maximum signals to noise ratio at the receiving end. So later on in the module 3, once we will study the detections of the various modulated signals, then we will find that at the receiving end, we used to use the integrator to receive our original message. So that integrator actually is nothing but an optimal receiver. How can we say that that one is an optimal receiver? How can we say that the probability of error for that integrated circuit is least one, or we can say that the signal to noise ratio is maximum? That we will see. But you can simply remember that integrator circuit is optimal receivers. And optimal, what is optimal receiver? Optimal receiver is that receiver whose probability of error of the detection is least minimum, or we can say in another sense that is this probability of error is dependent upon the signal to noise ratio itself, having some complementary error function. So that complementary error function is dependent function in nature. So once it means that we can say that it is having highest value of the signals to noise at the receiving end. So that main things in the module 3 will be studying the design of this optimal receiver, which is nothing but the mesh filter. So, and we will see that this mesh filter is an optimal receiver, and this mesh filter is nothing but the integrator also. And this mesh filter we can realize by the integrator. How can we realize that? I will get to know. And for this mesh filter, what is the mesh filter? Mesh filter is nothing but an optimal receiver which is having the least value of the probability of error, having the highest value of the signal to noise ratio, and at the same time we can say that this mesh filter we can realize using the integrated circuit integrated term circuit. And this mesh, why do we call it as mesh filter? Because the response of this filter is very much matching with the response of the input signal. That is the time domain response of the input signal. So you call it as match filter. It is matching with the input signal nature. Like if you take the impulse first signals for the GT or either for 1 or 0, then the match filter response, that is the impulse response of this one, is very much matching with this. That is nothing but the GT. That's why we call it as a match filter. And for this match filter, we'll be calculating the error rate due to the noise. And this effect of the noise is of two types. One is the inter-symbol interference, and there is the channel noise. So we'll be studying the performance of the match filter. And there's some more topics like instances, baseband banded transmissions. We have, transmit the baseband banded transmissions, the distances. For that, we will be calculating the criteria. And then some more topics related with this the signal and gram system, orthogonality polarization procedures, and the maximum likelihood detections and correlations. And this correlations is also what at the end of this module will be studying. That is also an optimal receiver. So optimal receiver you can consider as a mass filter, you can consider as a intricate and term circuit, or you can consider it as a correlated receivers. And all these things model 2 content you will have to easily find it out. This book it will consist 2 chapters. There are 2 chapters which we cover. Module 2. So now, since our first topic is the mass filter, so let us see what is the mass filter. What is the mass filter? What happens once we transmit the signals in the channel that suppose we transmit a signal GT, which is of the rectangular form. It may be 1 or it may be 0. So this pulse signal may get affected by the two factors. One is called as ISI, intersymbol interface. Again, also I have already told you. One is known as ISI, intersymbol interface. Other is the channel noise. Channel noise. Okay. What happens? What happens when this ISI appears? That is, once we transmit this GT to the channel, then this nature of this channel is a dispersive. Dispersive means the gain of this channel actually varies with respect to the frequency. So since the gain of this one is varying with respect to the frequency, the nature of frequency response of this one is dispersive in nature. So this causes certain delay in this pulse. What happens? One pulse once we transmit may interfere with another nearby pulse, either to the left hand side or to the right hand side. That is called as intersymbol interference. And another is some noises present within the channel, which in fact we will be considering for our discussion. We will be considering it as a white noise. And all of you are knowing the basic properties of the white noise, because in the PRP also I have already discussed. This white noise is the noise whose probability density function, whose power spectral density. Power spectral density is nothing but eta by 2, or sometimes we represent it by n naught by 2. And autocorrelation functions Rx tau we can simply calculate just by taking the noise Fourier transform of that, which is given by n naught by 2 delta t. So this is the PST, white noise. So for our discussion, sometimes we may consider as additive white Gaussian noise, AWGN, additive white Gaussian noise. It means what? That is for this particular noise, our probability density function is n naught by 2, and our PDF, probability density function, is nothing but the Gaussian. Is called as AWG noise. So this type of noise we'll be considering while discussing the effect of the channel noise in the transmission speed. So so here what is our plan? To detect the pulse signals of known waveform is we assume that we have a received signal GT of some, and the behavior of this, that is the waveform of this GT is known. And that is immersed in the additive white noise. First case. Later on, we will also be considering the effect of the ISI. We have to minimize the ISI, we need to use the wave shaping techniques. So that I will be discussing later on. So first, we are considering the effect of the channel. So here GT, suppose we are transmitting, and the receiver is already knowing this GT. GT behavior is known to the receiver, and but this GT get actually uh, affected by the channel noise. then we want to have a system that is called as optimum receiver. And these optimum receivers can be able to detect this original signal GT in the effect of the noise with the minimum value of the probability of error, or you can say the maximum value of signal to noises. If the signal to noises is maximum, we say that the probability of error will be minimum and that receiver is nothing but a receiver. So this is our aim. So actually this job can be performed by using the mesh filter. What is the mesh filter? And here we want to calculate the impulse response of this mesh filter. Because if we know the impulse response of the mesh filter, we can easily realize that. Yeah, this impulse this mesh filter is nothing but an LTI system, linear time invariant system. So basic property of the LTI and all are already discussed in the PRP subject. So we will be considering the LTI system and then we will be finding on the ST and we will see that if that LTI system will be having that particular value of the ST, then the signals to noise ratio for that will be maximum and hence we can say that the receiver as an optimal receiver. So here our aim is to detect this signal GT in the effect of the noise, in the presence of the noise. And which type of noise will be considering? We will be considering the channel noise, whose nature is white Gaussian noise, or simply white noise. So here, the device for the optimal detection of such a pulse involves the use of linear time invariant system known as Mesh filter. Why it is called as Mesh filter? Because the impulse response of the Mesh filter is nothing but the pulse signal. And this pulse signal is nothing but our input signal. That's why we can match meter, that is it is very much matching with our input signal. Now, so let us derive. So, in one sentence, I want to actually verify to you that in mass filter, our aim is to find out the value of HT, that is impulse response, or we can find HF, the transfer function of this filter, which can give you the maximum value of the signal to noise. So automatically, if this is maximum, then probability of error will be minimum. Our aim is to that value. That is for the known value, for the known value of the G, for the known nature of the waveform, we want to calculate over HT. So for that, and that we want to calculate over HT when this waveform is actually corrupted by some white noise. So for this, we want to calculate this HT. So let us see how can we calculate. So for that, you can see at the bottom of the slide that I have taken over an LTI system, linear time invariant filter or system, which is having the impulse response of HT. And our aim is to calculate this HT. Then what scenario we have considered? We have considered that GT signal has been transmitted and this GT is in the channel. With this GT, white noise gets added. And we have the signal ST, which is given to the optimum receiver. In fact, we can say this as an optimum receiver for which we want to calculate this HT. And in fact, this HT, what we will be calculating, the impulse response is very much matching to that of the impulse response of GT. And in fact, the impulse response of HT, what we will be getting is nothing but the time reverse of this shifted version of the time. It is G capital T minus T. Of that type only we will be getting. That's why we calculate this. So our aim is to calculate this HT in this environment. That is some signal GT which is at the first form has been transmitted and it gets added with some noise in the channels and then the variations of this signal gets received from receivers with response. We don't know when we want to and in that output of that we get in this output we sample at the time t equals to t, we will know yt. And this yt is nothing, although it will be different to that of the GT, but it will be same to that of the GT to get. Like suppose this, and what happens, why this error happens and which type of error we want to minimize. And in fact, what happens, this yt after taking the sampling, after taking the sample value of this yt at the end of each time period at t equals to t, at t equals to t, this switch gets closed and we get the value of this yt. And then this yt is compared. Move back is there, which is not shown over here. That is, this yt gets compared with the decision making device. Decision device, DMD. And this gets compared. And this decision making device, what happens, there is a pre-threshold level. Like suppose some gamma we define, some factor A we define as zero. So there is a pre-threshold level. And this decision making device simply compares the input sample value with the pre-threshold value. If this input sample value is low than the pre-threshold value, it decides that one has been received, one has been transmitted, or one is received. If the input signal is less than this pre-threshold level, less than this zero, then this receiver simply decides that the received will be zero. But when the error will appear, like suppose this pulse will be transmitted, like suppose this pulse will be transmitted. Okay. Now, due to the noise in the channel, this pulse amplitude, because it is additive white noise, we will affect on the amplitude of this signal GT. So this signal XT what is received that may get corrupted by the noise. Okay. May get affected by the noise. Now, if suppose this point is t equals to t, then if at this point we take the sample value, then what happens? Due to the effect of the noise, this amplitude has been shifted to the negative side. So the receiver, this decision-making device, simply realize that okay, since the value is less than zero, then it will decide that zero has been transmitted. Whereas in our actual sense, we have transmitted one. So because of that, only the error appears. And we want to design a system, that is the noise filter, an LTI system, such that this signals to this error can be minimized. So once this error can be minimized, receiver is called as accuracy. Now suppose if you take the sample value here, like at t equals to t, then what happens? Even though this value is less than the actual value of the signal, but it is greater than zero. Since the pre-threshold level is nothing but the zero, it is greater than zero. So the receiver will simply decide that one has been transmitted, and it detects it correctly. Even though with the effect of the noise, it will correct, it will detect it correctly. So this is how the error appears, and we want to minimize. So how can we minimize the error? So how can we minimize? That is, we need to calculate the signals to noise ratio of this signal. What will happen if we calculate the signals to noise ratio? And we want to maximize this signals to one noise ratio. We want to maximize this signals to noise ratio. So once we maximize this signals to noise ratio, what happens? Signal power will be high, maximum, and the noise power will be low. So we take the sampling exactly at that point where the signal power is maximum and noise power is more. Suppose this one is this point. So if we take the sampling at this point, then in that case, if we assume that our signal power is maximum, noise power is more low, it means our signals to noise as we can say least, then our signals to noise ratio will be maximum. So if at that point, suppose that was this point, then there is a less chance of the error, and that optimum can detect that transmitted bit, whether it is one or zero. So we say that once the signal to noise ratio is highest, automatically this probability of error becomes least, and the system is able to detect the transmitted bit even in the effect of the noise correctly. So we call that system as an optimal receivers. And for that system, we want to calculate the next. So let us see how can we calculate the next in process wise by maximizing the. So for that, this GT, we have GT over here, then WT white mass. WT white mass means our spectral density of this one is given by n naught by 2. Autocorrelation functions are x tau will be simply n naught by 2 and delta tau. Okay, and we have assumed the mean value of this white mass achieve mean value of that we have achieved. So this xt will be how much? Since this one is additive in nature, so we can actually add the signal gt with the mass wt. So xt xt will be equal to gt, that's the transmitted signals, plus and this signal actually will be received at the receiver. So since the filter is linear, so resulting output will be how much? Resulting output will be how much? Yt equals to G naught t plus Nt. And this G naught t is corresponding to and this G naught T is corresponding to the output corresponding to the signal Gt, and this Nt is noise arising at the output of this receivers received white noise at the input of this filter. Definitely there will be some noise. So this Xt is the input of this abnormal receivers. We can say that mass filter. Later on we will find it is nothing but the mass filter, and then output of the power is by T. So Gt corresponding to this Gt, output is G naught T, corresponding to this Wt, output is Nt. And we assume that Xt appears equal 0 to T. That is equal 0 to this. Ultimately, in that period only, where when this pulse appears, its maximum value, in that period only we have to take a sample value. So that sampling switch should be closed and opened according to this. That's why we have taken this time period. So why do you to G naught plus NT? Now, a simple way of describing the requirement that the output signal component G naught T be considerably greater than the output noise component. Okay? This G naught T will always be we always try to have. Our aim is to get this G naught T always more than this NT. Because once this G naught T will be more, NT will be less, the signal power will be more, and mass power will be less, signal to noise will be highest, and then probability of error will be least, and then we can easily detect this G. And in fact, we will see later on that the system what we are using, that is mass filter, as I told you that mass filter is nothing but an integrator circuit. So this integrator circuit what we'll be using, that actually emphasize the signal power more as compared to the noise power. Although this integrator circuit, if we are using the amplifier, then amplifier has the characteristic that it will amplify both the components equally. It means that the signal power increases, mass power increases with the equal amount. Whereas in the integrator in terms of but where the signal power is emphasized high more, it is amplified more as mass power. So further, it increases the signal to noise ratio. So here, our so if this phenomena happens like here in this case, or here at this point, because G naught is greater than G naught is greater than NT. So NT what is added to this G naught T is not like that it can change the amplitude of GT to the negative side. So it means that G naught T is greater than this NT. So in that case we can detect the signal once we take a sampling at T equals to T. This is equivalent to the maximizing the peak signal to noise power as I told you. That is we want to increase the signal power and decrease noise power, or it is same to that we want to increase one parameters only, that is called as pulse peak pulse signal to noise. So this is simply signal to noise ratio. But since the nature of this GT we assume it as a pulse, we call it as peak pulse signal to noise eta. So either we want to maximize this minimum error detections, or we maximize these parameters and we minimize these parameters. So it is better that we define another parameter which is called as peak per signal to noise ratio, and we try to maximize this. So eta, which is given as mod of G naught T whole square divided by expected value again. Because whenever the concept of the noise will come, concept of the process automatically come. So mod of G naught T whole square divided by expected value and square T. Where mod of G naught is G naught T. Why we are representing over the capital T? Because we want to find out the power of that signal at that particular time where the switch is getting closed. That means at that particular value of the point where we want to actually take the sample value like this. That's why here we are taking capital T. So G naught capital T whole square, which is nothing but the instantaneous power of the output signal. And then E n square T is nothing but the measured average output mass power. So our aim is to calculate these two parameters. If we are able to calculate these two parameters, then we can maximize that ratio and we can get the value of HT. So let us see how can we calculate. So for that, we have assumed that this signal GT, we transform that signal GT is GA, capital GA, the Fourier transform of this HT, impulse response of a linear LTI system, which we want to find out. That is nothing but H. So since we know, because in the PRP also I have already told you that if you have the LTI system whose impulse response is HT, if the input of that LTI system is HT, output is YT, then YT is nothing in the time domain. YT is nothing but the convolution of this HT with the HT. X tau, HT minus tau, d tau. This is already discussed in the in the ERP. And at the same time, in the Fourier transform of HT is say XF, in the Fourier transform of HT is say HF. Then the Fourier transform of HT, that is Y of, will be nothing but the product of these two, that is HF into XF. That is, if you want to find out the time domain response, then you must have to take the convolution XT with the HT. And if you want to find out the frequency domain response of this LTI system, then you need to simply take the product of the frequency domain response of the XT and the HT. And similarly, I told you this property also, that if the input, suppose you have the XT whose power spectral density is say something PST, is say SNF, okay, S not S1F. And if you want to find out the power spectral density of the output of this LTI system, then that is actually obtained by S1F multiplied by mod of HF square. This property we have already proved in the last module by discussing the random stochastic processes. So now this concept will be used in our discussions. No problem. If you have forgot that, then don't worry. I will let you know how the properties wherever and whenever it will require. So we have the LTI system whose input is XT, output is YT. Then YT we can calculate just by taking the convolution in the time domain. And in the frequency domain, just by taking the product of these two. And in fact, this is nothing but the property of the convolutions property of the you might have history in the Fourier transform. And in the case of power spectral density, if the input power spectral density is known, and if you want to find out the power spectral density at the output of this LTI system, then we need to multiply the input power spectral density with the mod of impulse function, transfer function of this LTI system. So similarly over here, because if you assume the GT Fourier transform of G capital and HT Fourier transform is HF, then the Fourier transform of G naught T. G naught is what? G naught is the output of this LTI system corresponding to the GT. So this G naught T will be how much? That is the output corresponding to the signal only. We consider the absence of the noise first, then later on we will consider the presence of the noise. So this G naught T, we transform the output signals in the time domain will be how much? HF is the impulse response of this, and then GF, because GF will be simply that of XF once we consider the absence of the noise. So it means that GF and HF. So I'm taking the inverse Fourier transform of that. So HF, because if you want to calculate G naught F, so G naught F will be how much? HF into GF. Now, if you want to calculate this G naught T, that is in the time domain, so we know that if you want to calculate, if you have the XT, and if you want to find out the Fourier transform in frequency domain, then it is nothing but minus infinite to infinite XT e to the power minus J by ddt. And if you know this XF, if you want to calculate the XT in the time domain, you need to find out the inverse Fourier transform. Then XT we can write it as minus infinite to infinite XF, then e to the power J by 50 df. Because once you take the integration with respect to the f, ultimately you will be getting the expression in the time, because you are taking the limit of integration for the f. So that will be the function of time t. And here, if you are integrating with respect to the time t, then definitely that will come to the function of frequency x. So this is not a Fourier transform. This is called inverse Fourier transform. So this we have GF. GF we have because we have assumed here absence of the noise. So GF will be simply HF into GF, HF into GF. And if you take the inverse Fourier transform of this GF, We get this G naught t. How can we find the inverse Fourier transform of this? So G naught t will be minus infinite to infinite, HFG of this and e to the power j to pi r t df. We need to integrate in this once we take the inverse Fourier transform. And the resultant signal will be in the function of time t. So here we are getting the resultant signals of the function of time t. So this is how we can calculate this G naught t, the output of this LTI system. Now, again here I've written the same expressions that is G naught t is given as minus infinite to infinite HFGF e to power j to pi ft. Same expression I've written over here just by taking the inverse Fourier transform of G naught. Now, then, then since our aim is to maximize this eta, calculate this eta, yes, we need to calculate this G naught t first. So G naught t we have calculated, which is coming out to be minus infinite to infinite HFGF e to power j to pi ft. So what is the since we need to calculate the G naught capital T, so we can replace this T and we actually take the sample value equals to T. This will be mod of G naught T whole square. And our aim is to calculate this mod of G naught T whole square. So mod of G naught T whole square will be simply minus infinite to infinite HFGF to by F capital T. Here it is a small t because we have replaced this small t with a capital T. Then we exactly take the value of that sample value of that signal. Is T and df mod of that one whole square. So we are able to calculate the first parameters, that is the instantaneous power of the output signal. Now, let us see how can we calculate this value, expected value of n square t. The basic nature of this, and we are knowing that is the sine wires whose power spectral density is n naught by 2. So we already know that that power spectral density of the output of the signals, because this is spectral value of n square t and n t is what? N t is the output noise. Output noise, how can you calculate? Because you can calculate the power spectral density of the output noise. Why can you calculate the power spectral density of the output noise? Because we know the power spectral density of the input noise. And since we know that the output power spectral density will be nothing but the input power spectral density multiplied by the mod of HF whole square. So in the same way, the output power spectral density we can calculate input power spectral density, which is n naught by 2 in mod of HF whole square. This is HF, mod of HF whole square. So this is the power spectral density of the output noise. So how can we calculate the power of the output, average power of the output signal, that we need to take this of n square t, and that we can easily calculate this expression. Also, I have already told you in the PRP in the last model. That is from minus infinite to infinite. This SNF will be over here, then DF. And since SNF is known, how much n naught by 2 minus infinite to infinite, mod of HF whole square DF. So here, what we have calculated this factor as well as this factor. Both the factors we have calculated. And since we have calculated both the factors, then just by taking the ratio of that, we can be able to find out the seamless to noise ratio. That is equals. So I'm not going to repeat these two terms continuously. It is easier to tell. This is nothing but a seamless to noise ratio. So we can easily calculate the seamless to noise ratio. So let us calculate the seamless to noise ratio, which will come out to be taking the ratio of this and this. So this will be at the numerator, this will be at the denominator. So this will be mod of the same functions are put over here. Minus infinite HFGF by j 2 pi ft df square divided by n naught by 2 minus infinite to infinite mod of HF square df. Now what happens? We have calculated this eta, or this linear time invariant system. That is, at the output of this linear TI system, we have calculated the signals to noise ratio. We have calculated the signals to noise ratio. But how can we say that this eta will be maximum? How can we say? Because ultimately we want to calculate this eta maximum, because for that eta maximum only we can say that the probability of error will be least and that receiver will be an optimal receiver. How can we calculate this eta maximum? And we know that eta is given by this. So what will the maximum value of this eta? That is, what will the maximum value of this signal to noise ratio? How can we calculate the maximum value of this eta? That maximum value of the eta we can calculate by using a special theory. I don't know whether you are familiar with that or not. If you don't know, then no problem. I will let you know. So, in the special theory which is called as Schwarzschild inequality. So same expressions are written over here. That is mod of minus infinite to infinite HFGM equals j 2 pi f t df whole square divided by n by 2. This same expression is repeated over here just for our convenience. So eta is given by this one. And then for this eta we want to calculate eta max. How can we calculate this? So to calculate the eta max, that is the maximum value of this, calculate that we use the special theorem which is called as Sievert inequality. So first I will let you know what is the Sievert inequality, and then by using that inequality we will see that how can we calculate the maximum value of this, maximum value of the signature matrix. So let us see what is the Sievert inequality. How can we apply that Sievert inequality in this particular expressions, and then from that expressions how can we calculate the maximum value of this eta, because this is nothing but a sinus process which we want to maximize it. And once that will be maximum, from that we can calculate the HT or HF. No problem. If you are able to calculate this HF, then just by taking the inverse Fourier transform of that, we can calculate the HT. And if you are able to calculate the HT first, then no problem. We just by taking the Fourier transform of that, we will be able to calculate the HF. So our aim is to maximize this eta for the given GF. This GF is given. As I told you, that the receiver is knowing that which GT we have transmitted. So GT is known, that definitely GF is also known. So for the given GT, our aim is to maximize this eta, and for that maximum value of the eta, we have to calculate this HT. Because once we know the impulse response of the LTI system, that LTI system can be realized very easily. So here, this is our aim. So how can we maximize this eta? So we can maximize this eta using the Sievert inequality. The question is, what is the Sievert inequality for the term weighted? That is, suppose we have a two complex functions. One is the phi 1x, another is the phi 2x. Suppose both may be complex or both may be real. But here, suppose we have two complex functions. One is phi 1x, another. I'm just going to let you know the Sievert inequality, and then we will be applying that Sievert inequality in these expressions to get the maximum value of the eta max. So let us see how can we do. So what is actually Sievert inequality? Sievert inequality, that for that we assume that there are two complex functions. There is the phi 1x and there is the phi 2x, where x is real. This x, which are the independent variable in this phi 1x phi 2 are the complex functions. Okay, this phi 1x phi 2 are the complex functions, and this phi 1x phi 2x are absolutely integrable. That is integrable over minus infinite to infinite mod of phi 1 x whole square dx is less than infinite mod of phi 2x whole square dx less than infinite. That is, we need to have the two complex functions should be absolutely integrable. Okay. Sievert inequality simply says that minus infinite to infinite integral phi 1 x phi 2 x dx mod of that whole square, this factor will always be less than equals to minus infinite to infinite mod of phi 1 x individual integrations mod of phi 1 x whole square dx minus infinite to infinite mod of phi 2 x whole square dx. This is simply the definition of the Sievert inequality. That is, integration over the product of these two complex functions whole square will be less than equals to their individual. And this equal sign in this inequality holds when this condition is satisfied. That is, when one complex function is some factor is any constant multiplied by the complex conjugate to get another second complex function. That is, if phi 1x is equal to k of phi 2 conjugate x, then this equal sign will be. Otherwise, this function will always be less than equals to this function. So for that, so let us apply this Sievert inequality in this particular expression. Because you can see at the numerator of this eta, this minus infinite to infinite HFCF equal to f t df mod of whole square is there. So these four functions we can break into the complex functions phi 1x, phi 2x. So here I have assumed the phi 1x is simply hf. This hf we have assumed simply as phi 1x, phi 1x, and these functions phi 2x, rest of the functions like g of e to the power j 2 by x factor t, we have assumed as phi 2x. If we are able to do that, then eta we can write it as mod of minus infinite to infinite. This numerator part we can write it as minus infinite to infinite hf gf e to power z 2 pi f t d of whole square. This will always be less than equals to minus infinite to infinite phi 1f using this equation. Phi 1f or phi 1x whole square, that is phi 1x we have assumed that as hf mod of hf whole square df, and then mod of phi 2 whole square. So since phi 2 we have assumed g of e to the power z 2 pi ft. If you take the mod of that one, then you we all know e to the power z theta mod of that one is nothing but one. So the mod of this factor will be equal to one, and the mod of this factor is equal to g of. So we can write it as mod of g of whole square df. Now you can see that hence in this equations this eta we can replace by this particular value, that is minus infinite to infinite mod of h of whole square df minus infinite to infinite mod of g of whole square df. Then what will happen if we replace this, then this mod of hf whole square, this factor and this integrations will get cancel out, and ultimately we can write it as eta less than equals to n naught by 2, we can write it as 2 by n naught, and only this integrations remain over here, that is minus infinite to infinite mod of g of whole square. Eta becomes less than equals to 2 by n naught minus infinite to infinite mod of 0 whole square df. That is this eta we are able to simplify by this very simple expression. And in fact, from this simple expressions, we can be able to easily calculate maximum value, because this eta will always be less than equals to this factor. It means that the maximum value of that eta will be nothing but 2 by n naught minus infinite to infinite mod of 0 whole square df. And we know that since maximum value is coming for the equal sign, and this equality, once this equality holds, this phi 1x must be equal to k times some constant with the phi 2 conjugate x. This is phi 1x we have assumed at hf. This hf, and that hf will be h opt we have written over here. Optimum transfer function. H opt f equal to k times this k times, then complex conjugate to that other phi 2x. That is complex conjugate of gf, then e to the power minus c to pi ft. Why we have written over here the h opt? Because we know that value of the transfer functions is nothing but the optimum transfer functions. Why it is an optimum transfer functions? Because this eta becomes maximum. And since once this eta becomes maximum, and that will happen only for the equal sign, and that from that equal sign, since we are calculating this, so this is nothing but the transfer functions of Fourier transform of the complex to that of gt is nothing but g minus f. And this you can easily prove. You might have already studied more in the property of the Fourier transform, that is g conjugate f equals to g minus f. When this condition happens, then our gt is real. So if you assume that gt are real, then this h up we can write it as k g complex conjugate, in place of that we can write it as g minus f e to the power minus 2 by f t minus t. Okay. Now you can see just by taking minus f by another dummy variable, say f, then what will happen? Minus t f will be df, and then limit of integrations will be from infinite to minus infinite. Then again this minus will cancel out, and this minus will be plus, and we can write by this integration. Just by replacing this minus f to f, and you can replace this minus f by another parameter say u, and since the integrations either you are differentiating, integrating the dummy variable u remains same, so ultimately we can write that u, further we can replace that u by f, you will get this integration. This is very simple, just by using the very simple integration, that is if you replace this minus f by u, then this will be gu, and this will be e to the power minus a 2 pi u t minus t, and that will be minus t of equals to minus t u. That will be actually considering the limit of integration, because once you are taking minus f, so minus integral will be plus integrations, the plus integrations will be minus. So if you interchange the lower limit with the higher limit, then minus sign will be accommodated in that. So now this h of t, and this is what? This is nothing but the Fourier transform of g t minus t. So this is k times. Now you can see the things what we wanted to calculate, ultimately we reached to the very simple expression, that is the impulse response of this system which we wanted to calculate, and that can have the maximum value of this eta. We got a very simple expression a a t minus t, and this is nothing, you can see this is g, and g is our original signals, and impulse response of this one is matching with that signal gt, because it is nothing but the time, sorry, g is small, this is a g t minus t, that is time reversal, and then that shifted version of that gt, shifted version of the input signal gt. It means that the nature of this one is very much matching, the shape of this one is very much matching with the other input signal gt. That's why it is called as mesh filter. And at the same time, this mesh filter is having the highest value of the signal to noise. So how much it is having? It is having simply 2 by n minus infinite to infinite mod of gf whole square df. So if I ask you, suppose I give you some gf like the impulse functions, if I ask you to calculate the maximum value of the signal to noise for the mesh filter, easily calculate just by using these simple expressions. Initially, it was looking like it is a very complex expression. Ultimately, we got a very simplified expressions. This expression is nothing but the noise filter, and later on in the next class, we will see that this expression we can simply realize by energy. How? That I will let you know in the next class. So for time being, thank you. Thank you to all of you. Moreover, if you have any query, you can ask me. Otherwise, we can end our discussion. Please, anyone of you.
Sir, what will be the time duration of the quiz, sir?
Time duration of the quiz will be of half an hour. Okay. So your
Yes.
quiz is scheduled from 7 to 7:30. So, but the link what I have shared, that link will be that you can join that link 15 minutes before. So you may find the timing of that link is from 6:45 to 7:45. But your exact time of the quiz will be for half an hour durations. That will exactly start from the 7 p.m. and it will exactly into the 7:30 p.m. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Sir, what will be the format of the quiz?
Format of the quiz will remain same as I told you in the class last time also. That is, as we used to take ERP quiz, like we used to give you the 10 question of 0.5 marks each, and one question of 5 question of 1 mark each. The questions format will be like that. Any other query?
No, sir. Thank you, sir.
Any other query by anybody? One is asking. Ankush. Ankush, I'm unable to hear you. Ankush,
No, no,
please
sir.
repeat.
I didn't got that, sir. What you said about the formats.
Format will
So
be
he,
that is there will be total 15 questions, out of which 10 questions will be of 0.5 marks each, and 5 questions will be of 1 mark.
okay, sir.
So I request you all that you don't miss that particular quiz, and you be ready uh, at before 15 minutes before to that of the 7 p.m. That is try to join in the team itself by 6:45. Okay. So now you can see at this time total attendance is 46. But since I have already taken the attendance, I'm not going to take the attendance again. But I'm surprised that why you are. I told you earlier that maximum I can wait up to 1 or 2 minutes. So I've already waited for the 2 minutes. Only 10 or 12 students were joined at that time.
Sir, network problem was there actually.
So again, I'm telling you all that you try to join within that 2 minutes only. If you having any problem, you can in fact ask me. Because, but in fact, I do not use. I do not start the class exactly at 3:30. But I have waited for the 2 minutes. Even though what I got only 2 minutes, 10 or 12 students were joined. I'm not going to take the attendance again. While please, maximum I can wait up to 2 minutes. That is for suppose tomorrow class is scheduled from 11 a.m. So I can wait it up to maximum 11. After that, I'm not going to do. So for that being, thank you to all of you. And I request you all to please be connected, try to attend the classes regularly, and try to be serious so that at least you can learn something. Thank you for that.
Thank you.